enforcement measures and identify efforts in reclaiming degradable or degraded lands. These are commendable steps that require the full support of Parliament, the full support of all of us. As we embark on this orientation session, I urge each one of you respectfully to approach it with a shared sense of responsibility and commitment. Our discussions today must move beyond rhetoric to tangible actions that will drive change in our respective constituencies. We must work together to ensure that small-scale mining is not synonymous with destruction, but rather an avenue for economic empowerment, job creation, and sustainable development. In conclusion, I extend my sincere gratitude to the organizers of this conference, our esteemed speakers, all participants, for your unwavering dedication to this cause. Let us engage constructively, deliberate effectively, and most importantly, live here today with a renewed sense of purpose to restore a culture of proper mining in Ghana. I want to thank you for your kind attention and wish all of us a wonderful day. Thank you.
Oh, you can do better than that. Put your hands together for the Vice President. Thank you very much. Please be seated. So, having secured executive support at the highest level, we can now move with the speed which is required. So I'd like to quickly welcome the Technical Director of Forestry at the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, Mr. Joseph Osiakwan, to lead us in a technical presentation on the state of the small-scale mining sector. Please put your hands together for Mr. Osiakwan.
Hello. Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, Honorable Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Leadership of Parliament, Honorable Members of Parliament, all protocols observed. I make this presentation on behalf of the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Honorable Fibwa. And this presentation is just to provide highlights of the speech he gave you. He has made some statistics in his presentation, and I want to corroborate them with some pictures on the ground for you to see the enormity of what is happening. So I am going to run you through the impact of illegal mining on forests and our water bodies. The presentation will give you some background, yes, and then give you some perspective of our historical mining activities in Ghana. As you all know, illegal mining predates 1980s, and those days we all know people were not using the type of equipment we are having today on the landscape. People were using implements, the hoes, the shovels, the pickaxes, and for that matter, the devastation was not pronounced as we see today. Please let me direct you before you go back. Somewhere in February 2003, 3 companies were granted mining leases to do prospecting in our forest reserves. These 3 major companies were Newmont Ghana, Chirano Mining, and AGC. These people were given licensing to mine in our forest reserve legally. And then in 2004, additional 25 licenses were given out, but only 10 of them were granted leases to mine. So the next slide will show you the companies that legally have licenses to mine in our forest reserves. The 3 I mentioned earlier and 10 other ones are these companies that you see. If any other company is mining in the reserve, which is not part of this list, they are doing so illegally. Next slide, please. Now, the minister in his speech mentioned that in Ghana we have 288 forest reserves. Out of these forest reserves, we have 288 forest reserves in Ghana, all across the country. And there are 21 protected areas, like the Mole National Park, the Shire Hills. Those are the protected areas. Out of the 288 forest reserve, next slide. Out of the 288 forest reserves, now I'm telling you the impact of illegal mining on forest reserves. Out of the 288, 43 of them are now under threat, serious threat. At the time we prepared this slide, we had 43. In the Vice President's speech, he said 44. Minister also mentioned 44. It means an additional forest reserve that was not recognized, that was not under any attack, under any threat, is now part of the list. Now we have 44. If we don't take action today, maybe in the next week, another new reserve that is not known for illegal activities will add on to the 44. That is what we are having now. And Minister mentioned about 5,000 hectares of our forest reserves are degraded, heavily degraded. And he mentioned that will be in the equivalent of 7,500 football pitches, standard football pitches. And this is serious. This is happening in Ashanti region, Bekwai, specifically Bekwai and Carrier district, Western region in Takwa and Dabuase area, and the western of Bibiani and Chi. These are the notorious areas where these illegal activities are happening. Now, we have color chart here to show you the extent of devastation and the threat. We have 4 colors here: the red, the yellow, the orange, the yellow, and the green. Out of the 44 reserves, 9 of them are colored red. And what does that mean? In these 9 reserves, the Forestry Commission that has the mandate to do that, to manage these areas, cannot even enter the forest now. They cannot enter any of these 9 reserves currently. Now, there are 12 forest reserves that are orange. In these areas, Forest Commission will go drive them out, and then in the next week they come back. They are very aggressive on the forest officials. 18 forest reserves are medium difficulty. There they go, and then for a number of months they don't return. And it's only 4 reserves out of that 44 that they have control. But with the efforts of the minister, at least some of the red zones are beginning to come down. As he mentioned, he was on the field. Next slide, please. These are the nature of forest. Those of you who have not been to our forest reserves, this is the kind of thing you see. A whole greening area being degraded, patchy areas now looking like lakes inside the reserve, all over dotted. This is Bonsa River Forest Reserve in the Western region. Next slide, please. This is Tanomiri Western Region Reserve. This reserve is a very popular reserve in the erstwhile administration, where some political activists were actively mining in this area. That's part of the challenge we are having. Next slide. This is Ampamprama Forest Reserve in the Ashanti region. This is how that forest reserve has been turned into, completely devastated. A lot of water bodies have been diverted. The waterways have been blocked, diverted, so that they can mine in the area. This is Ashanti region. Next slide. This is again Apaprama, to show you how deep the place has become. Very degraded, bare land. You don't see the forest anymore. These are parts of the reserve. The minister mentioned on Monday he was on the field. He went to Offin Shelter Belt Forest Reserve, the minister together with the regional minister. This is the devastation he went to see on Monday. Next slide. That's Minister, and this is what you can see all over the place, 30 hectares degraded. Honorable Minister, we are hearing that the place is even more than 30 hectares. It's more than 50 hectares now. Please slide, go. These are some of the excavators who were moved out of the forest and sent out to the place. Now, we come to how these attacks are being done. In fact, out of the 9 areas, we have been able to recover one of the reserves, the Fin Shelter Belt. About 15 excavators were taken out of that forest reserve before the minister, through the minister's arrangement and the security agencies and the regional minister in Kumasi. They did a wonderful job. The minister went to inspect those excavators. The people who are doing this work, especially in the red colored zone that I mentioned, this is the way they dress. They are heavily armed, using sophisticated weapons. The Forestry Commission their forest guards go with cutlasses, sometimes with guns, but short range. These people are well armed. They cannot, unless we deploy the military to face these thugs, we cannot overcome this problem. Next slide. Yes, this is how you see them. In the middle picture is showing how our forest roads look like. They are rough, and when they block you here, you cannot pass anywhere to enter the forest. These pictures were taken by some of our forest guards who went through the forest, hid themselves at their own risk. They could have been attacked easily. This is the way they are dressed. And information is showing that some of them are foreigners coming from Burkina Faso, Togo, Cote d'Ivoire. But we don't want to pinpoint any country in this direction. We have to work hard and flush them out of these areas. Next slide, please. Now, what are the impacts on our water bodies? What I've shown you is the forest reserve. What is happening to our water bodies? The Water Resource Commission has indicated that there are 3 water basins in Ghana: the Volta, the Western, and the Southwestern Basin. And the most heavily affected is the Southwestern Basin, where water treatment has become so high because of the pollution levels. And the rivers that are currently under threat are Ankobra River, River Pra, including Ofin, Brim, and Oda River, the Tano, and the Bia. These are the main rivers that flow. There are a few other ones, but all of them are now heavily polluted, and they need to be turned to blue under the Blue Water initiative of the president. Next slide. So this is what Minister talked about. The Water Resource Commission has indicated that to treat water, the turbidity level should be between 0 to 500 NTUs. But currently, they are ranging from 5,000 to 12,000 NTUs. It means at a point in time, they cannot even treat the water because they will continue to add chemicals upon chemicals, and what we'll be drinking in our homes will just be poison. So it's a very critical issue. Apart from the NTU levels, the turbidity levels, there are chemical pollutants in the water like cyanide and mercury. They have indicated that those ones do not go under treatment. They only treat the turbidity levels, but not the chemicals in the water. So the more illegal activities we do on the landscape and pollute the waters, it means we are taking more cyanide and mercury, and in some cases hydrocarbons, where they are using the champagnes and using diesel in those engines. Now, pictures of some of the rivers. That's how you see them. Here is Ankobra in Prestia. The color has changed completely. To take several years to turn this back into their natural state. Next slide. This is Ankobra again in Dominance at various points from upstream to downstream. It happens along the line. This is River Pra in Daboase. You see the illegal activities happening right inside the water course. They have diverted the water course. You see the excavator there trying to remove everything and dump along the river body so it can flow. Next slide. These are the champagnes we're talking about. They put them on the water bodies to float, and then they mine inside the water. This didn't used to be the case of illegal mining in Ghana. Where are the machines coming from? Who are importing the machines? Who are building them? Understand the machines are imported, but the floating devices are fabricated here in Ghana. So if we want to tackle the issue of the water bodies, turning them blue, then we have to do away with these sham funds. Your Excellency, this is very critical. Next slide. This is River Bonsa that is being treated for the people of Takwa. And on the right side, you see an alert from Water Ghana Company. Ghana Water Company saying that they can no longer treat the water, so they shut down their plants. This came in the papers. They cannot treat anymore, and this is what is happening. So water becomes a scarce commodity. Next slide, please. Now, major interventions. What have we done in the past to address these issues? A lot of interventions have been undertaken in the past, but they never worked. So if we want to tackle these issues, there should not be business as usual. That is why the reset agenda is very key here. We have to change our style and approach of doing things. From 2013, we had the Operation Halt. We had Operation Vanguard in 2017. We had the Gallant Stop in 2018. We have Operation Halt in 2018 and 2022. These were all approaches and strategies to curb this situation, but the situation remains even worse than before. We have tried to ban excavators. The Forestry Commission, when they find your excavator deep in the forest, the cost of taking it out is even more than buying the excavator, so they decided to ban those days. We have banned a number of excavators. It didn't solve the problem. Regular patrols of Forestry Commission staff, they are few though, and not well armed, they never worked. We have seized the equipment, kept them at the police station. Sometimes the equipment gets missing in action. They take the cases to court, they are not tried. This situation remains. A number of arrests have been made, no prosecution. The joint work by the DISEC, RESEC, MUSEC, it has never solved the problem. And then weekly, quarterly reporting from Water Commission telling the minister the turbidity levels are worse, we have to do this. It never worked. Your Excellency, it means the approach this time, if they will adopt these ones, it should be done in a different way. Otherwise, we will remain in the same position. Now, these are some of the pictures. Several of these excavators have been bent in the bush. You bend them, the next week, the people bring a new version into the forest. So if we stop burning, it will create problems. But now we will stop the burning. Minister said we have to use the equipment for the drip project. Fine, that's fine. But we'll make sure the equipment don't go back into our forest. If they go back, I know my forestry staff or my forestry colleagues will say that we'll burn. But we'll take the president's word. We'll not burn again. Please, let's go down. The soldiers have been there. We have burnt severally. As you can see them, they will bring new equipment the next day. Next slide. Like I was talking about the prosecution, we arrested about 840 just 2023 and 2024, and only 35 of these cases have been tried. It means the court are also not helping the situation. We have to try the people. If they have to jail them, we jail them. If we have to find them, we have to find them figures that are close to the value of the excavator so they don't go back. Some foreigners are involved, then our own local people. But you know that these people are not the ones who sponsor the excavators. The real people who buy the excavators are behind. We don't find them. Next slide, please. Now the challenges. Why have we failed? This slide is very critical, Your Excellency. Why have we failed? One, the greatest reason why we have failed in this exercise is the political commitment, the lack of political commitment. Some DCs were involved in the operations of illegal activities. Some party activists were involved. Sometimes some ministers we heard in the papers were also involved. So Forestry Commission do the arrest, and then the next day the ministers go, they release them. So if we don't have the political will at the highest level, from the president to the vice president, before it comes to the minister. Otherwise, the minister's work will be very difficult. If the president, vice president are committed, we do the arrest. Don't listen to anybody, just let the minister go ahead and punish the people who will succeed. But if you have to call the minister, oh, these people, release them, let's try them, will fail. This is what has happened in the past. The next one is the withdrawal of the military from the actions. In 2022, I can remember 1st November 2022, the military was withdrawn completely from all sites that we were working. So the Forestry Commission staff who are not well armed could not do the work anymore. So it became a fight for everybody. The people who were doing the illegalities could even fight the Forestry Commission. Until that time, no military person was on the field. That is what has aggravated the situation, the withdrawal of the military. A few days ago, when the minister, in collaboration with the security agencies, deployed military to the people, 15 meters from one forest reserve. I'm sure, Minister, you have to jump onto other forest reserves and do the same exercise. And let's see how the situation will be now. And then the issue of the armed gangs. I showed you how sophisticated they are, and they fight us back. Another thing that maybe Minister is taking up seriously is the lack of geological information. The illegal miners mine anywhere. For instance, if this room is a reserve and they come in here, they don't know where the ore is. So they have to dig all over the place to find it. But if the government can conduct through the geological survey and then map out areas where the ore is intense, then we will not end up digging everywhere. But the issue of mining in water bodies, I'm sure, should be banned completely, Honorable Minister. And then slow prosecution, which I've mentioned. These are the main issues. If we want to address the issue now, we have to tackle. Next slide. Then recommendations. Some few recommendations were made by the minister to the president a few days ago. And this is what he's deploying right now. The first one is the deployment of the military to all hotspots. This started immediately in February. That is why we are reporting about the 15 excavators. Then we have to recruit water guards or river guards to man the water bodies. I'm sure a very few days to come, Minister will be inaugurating a committee. I'm sure the Minerals Commission is already training some of these river guards. They have to deploy them and man all our water bodies 24/7 to ensure that nobody comes back. And then a holistic review of mining leases and permit regime, which Professor Chairman here is working together with a committee. Minister gave them end of February to submit their reports. I'm sure they are working tirelessly to do that. Honorable Minister, Your Excellency, the repeal of 2462 has been a topical issue, especially during the campaign period. So the public will be waiting to see whether the president will really do as he promised during election time. This law should be repealed, and then the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources will now come back with another comprehensive one, because this law came from Environment and EPA. They are not in charge of mining, they are not in charge of forests. So I'm sure the minister should be given the mandate, repeal this one and come back with a more comprehensive one that will address holistically issues of forest reserves, not by any other group. Your Excellency, so you have to push this agenda. It must work. And then we have to monitor and track all moving equipment that are moving into the forest. One of the critical promises or strategies to be adopted by the NDC is the reclamation of and revegetation of mine out areas. Here they have proposed Tree for Life reforestation agenda. Very soon the minister will launch this program. It's going to be a very comprehensive program that will tackle tree planting along all ecologically sensitive areas, including our water bodies, degraded forest reserves, and also introduce trees in farming systems. It's going to be launched very soon, and I'm sure all the parliamentarians and all other stakeholders will participate in the implementation of this beautiful program. Next slide. Yes, thank you very much. This slide here is telling you, EPA is saying that Ghana requires billions to reclaim and restore degraded lands. So we should be prepared to get the funds to reclaim the lands, because to reclaim 1 hectare of degraded forest takes billions of cedis. So the fight is for all of us, not for the minister, but everybody here present. Thank you very much.
That was wonderful. Is that the best you can do after such a wonderful? Wow. Your name is Osiakwan. I don't know what that means. You build a road or you block a road, but you've really opened the door for us. We're so grateful. I think that was very good, right? Very, very good. Okay, so this is what we are going to do. On the program, they've written tea break, but because of the way you are excited, we want to continue with the program because we also wasted 30 minutes. So this is what we say: if you really need to have any food, you can walk quietly and take it and come back in. If you need to use the washroom, you can do it quietly, but want to save time. So we have 3 members of parliament who would invite to give us what we call situational reports. They are from very important constituencies. They are Honorable Robert Wisdom Kujo, MP for Prestia Huni Valley. Put your hands together for him, please. Honorable Issa Taylor, MP for Takwa and Siam. And by the way, these are 2 of the biggest constituencies in the country, and they are neighbors as well. We also have Honorable Ebenezer Kweku Ado, MP for Esutifi North. Now, Reverend Kweku Ado of Dansoman is also there. They are sitting on the same table, but they are not the same people. So there's Ebenezer Kweku Ado. He is not a pastor, but he's sitting next to the Reverend Kweku Ado, who defeated Esla Owusu. So put your hands together for Kweku Ado too. He's the only pastor with a boy. You know, pastor with a boy. They believe him. It's like Roxy. He likes a boy. So the plan.
Now, world today, where everyone is striving to be part of a technological world, you need to hear this.
My dad found UPI for me.
Before coming to the institution, I was a graphic designer.
School leavers, parents who want the best for their awards, and even workers are pushing to advance themselves in IT and technology. The competition is keen, but the actual skill not available. And that is why UNIAT Practical Institute of IT, UPI, has introduced practical hands-on skill technological training with state-of-the-art tools, machines, and equipment that equip our students to work as professionals by the time they complete. What makes UPI training fantastic is that the programs are grounded in the German TVET policy. And so this makes the training what we call lab-based. This simply means that your classroom is the lab. From the very day you start class till the day you complete, it is practical training throughout.
Networking and cybersecurity engineering.
Graphic design, video editing, and 3D animation.
Software engineering. Me who say no interest or IT move since me follow a bebo me. And I'm here emergency me. Na me ban so the na ma dwun na wo so. Esa the way I say e ko ni baby e ko do. Me decide say me networking say the be ya